This is my 1970 US Honda 90 three-wheeler. This was my barn find. If you didn't see the previous video, please check it out. I went and pulled this thing out of the barn. It's been sitting for about 15 years. It was a one owner, came with title, owner's manual, all the little good stuff. Had a nice story behind it. But here's our first attempt at messing with this thing. We're going to get this thing cleaned up and see if we can get it to run. So these are the original balloon tires on it. The guy had it sitting on blocks when I picked it up. When I got it back here, though, we put a little air in it to get it on the trailer. By the time we got it back, all the tires were flat. So I have messed with those a little bit. They were all had some dry rot cracking and stuff. So what I've got going on right now is we did a little patching with some flexible silicone on this, which is really the only way to make these things possibly work again. We're gonna get this cleaned up and we'll paint that back over and make it black looking again. So at the moment, all my tires are holding there. Motor turns over free. No idea if it's got spark or anything else like that, but I think we're gonna start by cleaning this thing up first, and then we'll pull the carb off of it and gas tank and see if we can breathe some life back into this thing. Well, I've got it pretty well cleaned up. Got all the dust blown off of it anyway. Definitely do kind of a good final detail on this thing, but took the fenders off. We're over here. So I think what we're gonna do next here, pull this carb off. We're gonna start going through that and through this gas tank and get some fresh gas in it. Check for some spark as well. Maybe this thing will fire back up pretty easy. We're gonna find out. Got it up on the lift here. First thing I'm gonna do is we're gonna check for sparks. Pull the spark plug out. We've got our kill switch in the on position. And let's give this thing a pull here. Well, it appears that we do not have spark. So I'm pulling it over right now. And I'm not seeing anything. Threw a different spark plug in there quick. Same deal. So this does have a points system on it, so we might have to kind of pull this apart and clean it and see what's going on. So in order to remove this gas tank, there was just one rubber strap that went across that. And this is basically free. Only thing holding on are these gas lines, which seems to have petrified. They're kind of rock hard. So I think I'm probably just going to cut those and replace them. And then I can get this gas tank off, and then I'll pull this carb off and kind of see where that coil's at and do a little more inspection on this spark system. I just pulled the air box off here. There was just two bolts holding this on right there and there. I want to get this little intake boot off. It seems to be really stuck right there. So I'm going to heat it up just a little bit with a torch, soften this rubber a little bit to get it off, so I don't want to rip it or tear it. And then there's just two bolts right there holding the carb on. So I'll get that off. At the moment, throttle feels stuck on it, which is probably just this barrel stuck down in the carb, hopefully. So I've got the carb off now, and it looks like the coil is actually back in the frame here. So it looks like to remove that coil, you'd basically have to drop the motor out of the way. So that's pretty inconvenient. So this wire here is going to the points, or points right there. So rotating this around opens up that contact. I'm pretty sure when this is closed, I should have continuity between that wire and then up here, and I do not have continuity at the moment. So I'm gonna try cleaning those contacts a little bit, the points, see if I get lucky and see if that solves my problem quick. Looking at the service manual, it says that our contact clearance should be a maximum about 16 thousandths. So we'll rotate this. When it opens up, so there we're open. We got a 16 thousandths feeler gauge. That went in there pretty easy. So we might adjust this up a little bit by loosening those two screws and adjusting that. So it says the minimum thickness should be 12 thousandths. So maybe we'll set it to that 12 thousandths and see if we get some contact between the two. All right, I adjusted these points, and then I sanded real good in between there until I was getting continuity between that wire and that top, this contact right there. And now I've got some spark again. So we just weren't making contact, so. There we go. Cool. We've got some spark. So let's address some fuel stuff on this. So on this carb, the barrel is definitely stuck down in there, and that's what's causing that throttle cable to be stuck. So I'm kind of soaking it with some PB Blaster and some carb cleaner right now. I'll kind of work a screwdriver down there and see if we can pop that barrel loose and then fully disassemble this carb. I just pulled the bottom bowl off this carb to see if I can maybe push up on the needle from through the main jet. And yeah, this looks like it was definitely stored with gas still in it. Here's what the bottom of the bowl looks like. So we might just have to let this carb soak for a while, and then we now have the carburetor all cleaned out. So we're ready to reassemble this and throw it back onto the machine. And then we're gonna put some new gas lines on this gas tank, maybe flush a little gas through it as well, maybe wash out any crud that might be down in there. Throw it back on there, put our timing or the point cover back on there, and yeah, and then we're gonna see if this thing will fire up at all. I've got the carburetor back on and installed. Got some new fuel lines on here. Gas tank is back on. I did end up flushing this out with some gas. There was just kind of some dust and rust down in there. Tank doesn't look too bad on the inside. Yeah, I can't really tell too much there. I'm a little concerned down here if there's any little pinhole rust spots there. So we'll put some gas in this thing next and see if we get any leaks, and then see if it'll fire up. Well, that's exactly what I was concerned about. We got a little pinhole there. Shoot. We're going to have to do a little patching down there to get this to seal up. That's unfortunate. My gas tank patch is kind of fixing or drying right now. So I've got gas in this carb. So we're going to see what it does here. See if it'll take off. Well, that was a fire. Here, let's throw a choke on. That was no choke. That seems promising. Whoa! We got a little bit there. Oh, let's throw a choke back on. Whew. Well, we got a fire there. That seems promising. I think it's gonna run. Yeah, just fired up one more time here. I think it was just a little flooded there, but yeah, it's running. We'll get this gas tank fixed, and then it should run on its own pretty well. Okay, I've got my gas tank patch. What I ended up doing, it's just a little JB weld right where the rust spots were at, which I think that was the only pinhole that was leaking. I didn't really want to repaint this tank or go anything crazy with it. I'm trying to keep it kind of as original and unrestored as possible. But got gas back in it. We're not leaking. So let's see if fire this thing back up and see if it'll kind of run on its own for a little bit. All right, here we go. Put choke on. Give it a throttle. Whoa, how about that? Typical good old Honda. Not even smoking or anything. That's pretty awesome. flick it into gear here and see if I want to, well, we won't try that yet. We'll off the lift. Cool! It runs! That's amazing. Well, I think maybe we'll kind of throw the fenders on and button up a few things. We can probably take it for a drive. See if our kill switch works. Sure does. Let's start right back up. You bet. Awesome. This is the air filter that was in it. I just pulled this out and it's just kind of crumbling away. So I'm probably going to take this off. So maybe I'll makeshift an air filter just for the time being. And then we'll throw this air box back in place, throw the fenders on, and we're going to see if it drives. Well, it's all back together. Runs. I made a air filter for it. Gas tank's not leaking. Let's see if it'll drive. Haven't tried that yet. There's first gear. We might be stuck in between high and low range here, maybe. Oh, okay. There, we got it into low range, I believe. See if it'll go back into high. There we go. It moves. Sweet. Well, I think we're going to stop here. It runs, it drives again. Everything seems to work. I think I'll do another video, so follow along. We're going to get this thing kind of real shined up, detailed up, and everything, and make this thing look as good as it possibly can without fully restoring it. It's quite the success, though. This thing hasn't ran in, I think, 15 years is what the guy said. But typical old Honda. Basically just clean the gas, clean the points, clean the carb, started right up.